It's 5:41 in the morning a.m. and I just woke up. I often wake up right about this time. On my schedule of medicine, I take medicine at 6 a.m. That time is arbitrary. I picked that time because that's when I typically wake up without an alarm. Why would I set an alarm clock? I don't know if you can hear that siren. I don't understand why, but every single day, um, multiple cops run their sirens, starting about four. I don't know. It feels like they're testing their sirens. Seriously, I feel like they're like coming on shift and testing their sirens. Anyway, I woke up and one of my very first thoughts was, oh no, I have to go through this again. If I do this, I mean, my life, I guess, I don't know. It's the same, it's a different day, but just, ugh. And then for some reason, unknown reason, recalled law school. It was very different. In law school, I woke up about this time without an alarm. During 3 years of law school, this is a long time ago now. This is 2005 to 2008, so I can't remember the exact number, but I think I used an alarm twice. I had morning classes. I would wake up without an alarm, and I was excited. I remember waking up and thinking, this is great. I get to wake up and do this again. And it was great. I would wake up. I accidentally developed a pattern. I woke up and would turn on the music and, I don't know, check a little email or do something for a few minutes. And then start studying. And it was great. I loved it. I loved it. I didn't wake up and study and feel burdened. I worked really damn hard in law school. I worked hard in law school. I worked hard as a lawyer. I worked hard when I was a teacher. I worked hard when I worked at Dell. I worked hard when I had my own business. I worked hard when I was a professional Magic player. I mean, my whole life, whatever I was doing at that moment, I was working hard, including now. I work really hard. But one of the great parts about law school for me was, like I said, I woke up and I was like, yes, this is great. I get to study, I get to learn, I get to understand law, new ideas today. Again, how awesome is that? And I would start studying, start reading, and I really enjoyed it. And then eventually I would eat breakfast and take a shower. I cooked breakfast every morning, and that was also great. I like cooking. And then I would go to class. I think I would study some more. Yeah, I usually would have time to study some more. Yeah, yes, definitely. Because that was the funny part. Funny, ironic. Ironic is the right word. Sometimes I was running very close to being late for class. Wow, some memories are coming back. This is crazy. I was never, no. I was rarely early for class. And I'm going to, there's funny. I'm going to come back to that, okay? And the reason that's ironic, I didn't tell you, you don't know this part. I lived 1.5 blocks from school. So this is downtown Chicago, and I lived on the 28th floor. So, like, half of my commute to school was just getting outside. So I'd get outside, 1.5 blocks to school, and then go up to whichever floor my class was on. Okay, so it's not very far, but I often was rushing to make sure I was on time. And that's ironic because I was awake at 6 a.m. and studying, but I'm rushing to get to class. And the reason is because I was really enjoying studying. I would lose track of time. So I forgot about this. Oh, man. So, especially this one class, civil procedure. I should also mention, in the United States in law school, your first year, your schedule is given to you. Instead of you picking your classes and picking your schedule, you're given a schedule. And your schedule is identical to a bunch of other students. So in my class, meaning my graduating year, during the day we had 3 sections. And each section had about 80 students. So in my first year, I had 4 classes each semester, and it was with all of the same students, always. So you really got to know the people in your own section, or in this case, they really got to know me, I guess. So apparently, my habit of rushing to make sure I'm not late and then walking into the classroom right on time became so predictable or common or regular that other students and sometimes the professors basically basically used me unconsciously as like as a clock, as an indicator of class and when it would start. Okay, I haven't said anything funny yet. I'm because, so like a few times. God, I haven't thought about this in forever. So there were a few times, especially civil procedure, where I showed up 5 minutes well before the scheduled start of class. And this is the first class in the morning. Lots of the students are there, and the professor's there. It's well before the start time, like 5 minutes before the start time. And I walk in, and everyone, without thinking, without looking at the clock, just reflexively goes to their seat, sits down, and is quiet, and the professor gets ready to lecture. And then oh, that's just, and then they look and they're like, it's not time for class. And then, really, I'm talking like 70 people, all looking at me, blaming me. It was like, oh my God. And then we all laugh because we realize, what's going on, that I'm always like right at the last second walking in, or 30 seconds late. Where I sat, there was a door that was very close, and I could just come in the door and walk a little bit, and then I sat right on the end so I could just and sit down. But everybody still saw me. It was it was an amphitheater classroom with raised seating, so everybody could see me. Let's say I had personality. I don't know. Everybody saw me, everybody knew me, and especially civil procedure. That was my class. Most law schools have a habit of giving out a special award to the student who gets the highest grade in that particular class. And I got the highest grade in civil procedure. Is that right? Yeah, 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 I did. And that Professor Lazar, I really liked him. We had a good relationship. Well, I had a good relationship with most of my professors. I guess I had a great relationship with him. I'm not sure how to describe it. I was older than most of my, what's the right word I'm looking for? Classmates, that's the word I'm looking for. A lot of them were 23, 24, 25, and I was 30. That's not a massive difference, but there were a couple of other things that did make the difference a little more pronounced. Most of them, or all of them, followed the customary way of of growing up, being an adult. So they went to university at 18, they graduated at 22, and I guess about half went straight to law school. So they were 23, but had only ever been a student. And then many others took a year, worked for a year or two, but that's it. And they knew they were going to go to law school. Their employers knew they were going to go to law school. So there's only so much work experience you can get during that time. In contrast, I started university at 16 and quit when I was 17 and started my own business. So at 17, I wasn't just working, I was just running my own business. To complete my undergraduate degree, I didn't go back and take classes. Before law school, I only had 1 year of typical school experience, but it wasn't even typical because I was 16. So I had 13 years of work experience of living on my own. Like, I moved out to go to university, moved out of my parents' house and my mother's house. I did not go back. I was able to connect with my professors in a way that most of my other classmates could not, just because of differences in our life experiences. That's all. And also, I really liked law school, so maybe that was another reason. That's the whole point of making this video where I'm rambling. The point of this video is sort of to ramble. It was a big contrast this morning, 25 minutes ago when I woke up. Contrast between remembering how in law school I'd wake up and I'm not exaggerating or paraphrasing. I would think to myself, it's time to wake up. That's great. I get to go study. I get to do this again. I would have thoughts like that regularly. It was wonderful. It was one of the best times of my life. Right. But for many, many years now, here, this life, this episode, my life, no, I wake up and I think to myself, it's time to wake up. I have to go through this again. It's a big contrast. And just to throw it out there, when I worked as a prosecutor, I was not quite as excited to wake up. Yeah, excited wouldn't be the right word, especially in the beginning, because it was really hard. Oh my God. That job was so hard because I had no training. I had a day and a half of training, so maybe in some other video I'll tell you about that. But I cared about what was happening because the defendant, see, in a lawsuit, a private lawsuit, if the plaintiff, who is claiming they were damaged loses the case, then I hate that word. I can't believe I just said that. If the plaintiff does not prove their case, then they do not get compensated for their damages. We're assuming that they were actually damaged, and they were damaged in a way that the law requires compensation. On the other hand, if the plaintiff is claiming damages, but under the law they are not entitled to damages, but the outcome of the case requires the defendant to pay for those damages, that's another type of error, that's also bad. They're paying for damages that they shouldn't. So, in a civil lawsuit, both sides have something at risk. There's the risk of an error in the outcome of the case. But that's not how criminal law works. Criminal law is not justice that restores a damaged party to their original state. Criminal law, criminal justice is about punishment. And it's only about punishment of the defendant. If I'm representing the state, the government, and I am claiming that the defendant has violated the law, if I prove my claim, there are negative consequences for the defendant. If I don't, there are no new negative consequences for the defendant. But here's the thing, is that if the defendant in fact committed a crime and I do not prove it, that's it. That's the end of the story. You see, in a civil case, if I am a plaintiff and I was damaged and I'm entitled under the law to receive damages from the defendant, if I don't prove it, then if there's an error and I am not compensated, then that's bad for me. I lose twice. But that's not the same in criminal justice, in criminal law. As the prosecutor, I don't have anything to lose. I don't have anything on the line. The only person that does is the defendant. And even when there's a victim, in the criminal case, the victim does not have anything on the line. If the victim sues in a civil case, then the victim has something on the line. But in a criminal case, there's one person, that's it, in the entire process that has anything at risk, and that's the defendant. And that's serious. That's very serious. And as the prosecutor, I have a lot of power, an incredible amount of power. And if there is an error in the case against the defendant, meaning the defendant is convicted of a crime that they should not have been, as the prosecutor, I have the most ability to prevent those types of errors. So that's rough. I was extremely aware of that as a prosecutor. So on the one hand, I needed to prosecute things vigorously because we believe that by prosecuting vigorously, we can deter other crimes. And in another video, I talked about how I did do that because I was extremely vigorous with prosecuting domestic violence and domestic abuse. A lot of crimes were deterred. A lot of domestic abuse and domestic violence crimes were deterred. But on the other hand, the defendant is a fellow human being, and they're the only person with anything at stake. And I'm the person who's most able to prevent errors, even more so than the judge. I'm the prosecutor, so I get to see all of the evidence. The judge does not. So I need to be the most critical of the evidence. I need to ask the most questions. I need to be the person who says, is this really a crime? The judge is there to help protect rights, powers, privileges, and immunities of the defendant. everybody should be asking the question, and the person who has the most ability to see the entire picture is the prosecutor. And because I lived in a small county, I prefer cities, I'll be honest, so didn't really enjoy living in a small county, but being a prosecutor in a small county is a very different experience than being a prosecutor in a huge city or county technically, because not only was the defendant, a fellow human, they were more often than not my neighbor. It was really easy to think of them as my neighbor because there were only 16,000 people in the county. So there was a restaurant I used to eat at. There were not very many restaurants in the county. And there was a restaurant I used to eat at that the owner, I had to litigate against him. But one of my very first criminal cases was one of his former employees had stolen some money, and I prosecuted the former employee. The cashier at a little corner store, and I prosecuted her. There was a pizza shop that I didn't go and eat at because over the course of about 8 months, I had prosecuted every single person who worked there and the two owners. So I did not go there just to be safe. It's a small county. Many of the restaurants that I went to, there was somebody who worked there that I had prosecuted. So these are my neighbors. They really are. And that made it easier to humanize the defendant. Sadly, the prosecutors, the assistant state's attorneys before me, obviously did not humanize most of the defendants. It was really sad. The story is about waking up, and I used to really like waking up. And as a prosecutor, I liked waking up. In the beginning, I was really concerned about prosecuting a person who should not be prosecuted. I was concerned about asking for an excessive punishment. So someone should be prosecuted, they are convicted, but then the right amount of punishment is very important. As a quick throwaway, the number one predictor of recidivism, committing more crimes, is over punishment. Over punishment, not under punishment. So whether I was concerned about recidivism or whether I was concerned about the defendant as a fellow human, I was always concerned about asking for too much punishment. But I would, I hate this phrase, but I'm going to use it. Nobody considered me soft on crime because I often asked for very stern punishments, and more often than my predecessors, the judges would impose a stern punishment when I asked for it. And that might have been because I did not ask for excessive punishment. I tried so hard to not ask for excessive punishment. So that's why in the morning before going to work as a prosecutor, on the one hand I was very enthusiastic. I liked the work that I was doing. I felt that I was helping the community, and I was helping the community. On the other hand, there was a real possibility I could do a lot of damage to one of my neighbors, the defendant. And I had to find the right balance. And in the beginning, I had no guidance on that. Okay, sorry. I had some guidance, but it was guidance on what my boss wanted me to do as a politician. He was a politician. He's an elected official. So he gave me guidance on what he wanted, but it was all guided by political decisions, not justice. He never said to me, well, the defendant is a fellow human being. He never said anything like that. That's not how he thought of criminal justice. So in terms of how to treat the defendant as a fellow human, how to treat the defendant with respect, how to treat the defendant as my neighbor, literally my neighbor. I had no guidance. And in the beginning, it was really stressful. But I still liked going to work. I still liked waking up. And that's the contrast with now. I don't like waking up. I want to. For most of my life, I liked it. I liked waking up and doing whatever it was I had to do that day. Will you help me to heal so we can change that?
I need 31 days of rent support. Let's end my homelessness, cure my disability, and return me to self-sufficiency. Be pro-social. Join Patreon. Become a member of my YouTube channel.